made to you so special? Nothing. I'm just a kid from Brooklyn. I was from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn!
Were you scared of it? No, not at all, huh? Okay. You're from Brooklyn, huh?
I just wanna rap. Okay, guys, Frank Style, just a guy from Brooklyn. Jaws is my favorite movie of all time. It's a masterpiece, a perfect film, the original summer blockbuster, and back during its release, it terrified a generation of fans to be afraid of swimming in the water. Now, there are fans out there that feel like they shouldn't have made any sequels, especially because how bad some of them are. But I am not one of those fans. I have fun with all the movies of the franchise, and so I'm going to try to show you what these movies have to offer and perhaps give you a perspective you haven't yet thought of. I want to jump right into it, but very quickly, two quick things. Number one, spoiler warning. These movies are very, very old, and I'll be spoiling just about everything. Number two, while doing my analytics, I noticed that most people that view my videos, they do not subscribe. So make this old man happy. Hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. It's just going to make me really happy. And so let's get into it. First off is Jaws 2 came out in 1978. The easiest to defend. It's already a cult classic. Jaws 2 isn't trying to be a bigger or better sequel to Jaws because that would be impossible and they knew it. Most of the people responsible aren't in it and for good reason. They went through hell to make it, and who in their right mind would want to do it all over again? Enter Roy Scheider, contractually obligated to do the sequel when he was looking to do other things. So he was pissed. So pissed that rumor has it that he punched out the director at one point. Normally this would be bad, but here's the thing. There's acting, there's passionate acting, and then there's pissed off Roy Scheider acting. All that anger turned into passion on the screen. I've heard many reviews throughout the years, and most guys point to the plot with there being a second shark as the biggest problem. Really? Why couldn't there be a second shark? The ocean's plumb full of them. There's definitely some sort of clairvoyance here, as around this time we had Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Black Christmas, Halloween was about to debut, Friday the 13th was about to piggyback off that and start the slasher craze of the 80s. Is it a coincidence that Jaws 2 would have the shark stalking horny teenagers? I don't know, but what I do know is Jaws 2 is Jaws in an old school slasher mold. The shark has a Freddy Krueger burnt face on one side, and the hornier the teenager, the more likely they become chum. Another thing critics have said is that the plot is repeated in regards to the town. True and not so true. The mayor, who was the true villain of the first movie, is more of a referee between Brody and the leaders of the town. Ironically, the new baddie would eventually become the evil Stefano in the soap opera Days of Our Lives in the years to come. The teenage characters are quickly and yet neatly fleshed out with the love triangle between Brody's son Michael and the new baddie's son, fighting for the affections of new hot girl in town, Jackie, played by Donna Wilkes. You might recognize her from the exploitation film Angel, about a teenage girl who makes money as a prostitute by night. Brody's younger son, Sean, is there to do what younger brothers do. Get in the way, cock-blocking motherfuckers. They really push these kids to the forefront. You might also notice Keith Gordon of Christine and Back to School fame. The second half of the movie has them all sailing out into the ocean, giving the shark an all-day buffet with all the fixins. The shark scares the bejesus out of a few divers, then kills its first teen. That's right, because they stop to have sex. Then he catches up with the group and shreds their sailboats more than a julienne salad. The shark then terrorizes these kids, playing with his food. The shark swallows a young girl whole who was just trying to save Sean. Oh, and did I mention that the shark takes on a helicopter? Yeah, that's a thing here. There's an extended TV cut that I always thought worked better, and I hope we get that one day on hard media. Although the original Jaws will always be my favorite, Jaws 2 is the one I watch the most. It's easier to digest. I've never really watched them back to back. I don't associate it with the original, and that's mainly because I'm a fan of slashers. Up next is Jaws 3, also known as Jaws 3D, came out in 1983. At face value, it's pretty bad. Because of the gimmick 3D effects, the shark looks terrible. And this one has a mother-child shark combo and takes place at SeaWorld. In fact, at times it feels like a promotional video for SeaWorld, which in itself is kind of weird. Yeah, nothing says go to SeaWorld like killer sharks gobbling up customers like Pac-Man. But it's the weird that makes the movie interesting. Absolutely nothing makes sense in this movie. Because of all the weird visuals, it feels like some sort of big mind fuck. Is there actually a shark? Or is everyone at this theme park going through some sort of mass hysteria? At the beginning of the movie, a park employee who looks like an 80s stud cliche is killed by the shark. Or is he? You don't actually see the shark, and they show his remains later, and it really doesn't add up. Conversely, if there is a shark, is it an actual shark? This shark has huge John Heater gums and swims backwards. We don't have pissed off Roy Scheider, but what we do get is pissed off Louis Gossett Jr., who plays the greedy park manager. Which brings me to my big positive. It's an 80s movie. You've got Inner Space's Dennis Quaid, Back to the Future hottie Leah Thompson, and the manimal himself, Simon McCorkindale, who plays this sort of reality TV big game hunter. For those of you who don't know, The Manimal was a cheesy 80s show about a man who can turn into any animal who helps the police solve crimes. So you might ask, what does any of this have to do with the first two movies? Well, Quaid plays Brody's son Michael, who works at SeaWorld, and John Putch plays younger brother Sean, coming to visit, but he's afraid to swim in the ocean because of the events of the first two movies. Yeah, okay, so Leah Thompson's vagina can help overcome anybody's worst traumatic fears. Bess Armstrong plays Michael's love interest, marine biologist Catherine, and they have a small subplot about Michael taking a job which will kill their relationship. But to hell with all that shit. We've got a killer shark in the park. After the shark is discovered, Dennis Quaid straight loses his mind. You can say many things about his career, but I say he gives great crazy face. He spends lots of time running around, sometimes on golf carts, sometimes on boats, yelling and screaming at everyone. At first, they capture the shark, thinking that the problem is solved, and they think that they can display the shark at SeaWorld, and unfortunately, the shark doesn't survive. Unfortunately, again, they don't realize that that was the baby shark, and they quickly learn that Mama Shark is out there. After all hell breaks loose, the manimal takes action. He thinks that he can stop the shark, and unfortunately, he ends up getting swallowed and viciously crushed, yet not digested by the sea monster. The shark. In a tough scene to be sure. Eventually, Mike and Catherine end up in an underwater control room with Gossett Jr., his nephew, and an unnamed Caucasian female employee. Then the shark, or a cutout picture of the shark, decides to attack. In slow motion. In about 5 minutes. The room is quickly flooded, and Gossett Jr. has the opportunity to save either his nephew or the female employee. Well, I ain't gonna say it. The shark is eventually defeated, thanks to the manimal being hard to get down and some help from a few dolphins. The final scene is absolutely ridiculous, with the two dolphins cut and pasted in the cheapest effects way imaginable. The whole experience is bizarre, but I say watch this one as an abstract psychological thriller and move on. And last but not least, we get Jaws the Revenge, came out in 1987. This takes place in an alternate reality as the events of part 3 never happened. Brody has passed away, Sean is working his old job, and the killer shark kills him to start off the movie. It's actually pretty ridiculous as the shark rips off one of his arms, but you can clearly see his arm bent under his jacket. Brody's wife, still played by Lorraine Gary, is now the lead character, and she believes the shark is out for revenge and is going after the entire Brody family. Yes, as the poster clearly states, this time it's personal. So let's take a step back for a second and think this through. The shark wants revenge, which isn't an emotion your typical great white shark usually exhibits. It wants revenge for a particular family. And revenge for what exactly? And this is all you need to know to understand what you're getting into. It's completely ludicrous. How bad is this movie? There's a scene where Michael is walking along Amity Beach with his wife and he decides to start running. There's no reason for this. It's never explained or followed up in any way. My guess is he was trying to run away from the movie. Michael Caine admits he didn't want to do the movie, but he was looking to buy some property, so he did it for the money. Hey, we've all whored ourselves out in some way or another, so let's not judge him for that. And as a veteran, accomplished actor, I'm sure he's gonna bring his A game. Oh, shit! Okay, well, maybe not. SeaWorld is replaced with the Bahamas. Well, because it's better in the Bahamas, or at least that's what I've heard. So let's get down to brass tacks. This movie knows it's absurd, so how do I defend any of this? I don't. It's so bad, it's totally hilarious. It's a comedy disguised as a shark movie. After the funeral, Michael and his family invite his mom to the island as he's a marine biologist studying conch with his partner Jake, played by Mario Van Peebles. She obviously wants him to quit his job because the shark is coming for him. But he assures her that great whites don't swim in the warm waters of the Caribbean. But as weird as it seems, it only gets weirder. Mama Brody has nightmares of being eaten by the shark. Is the shark invading her dreams? She also appears to have a psychic link to the shark. Oh yeah, it's totally going there. Speaking of the shark's abilities, this one puts the one from 3D to shame. This shark can stand on end off the water and wait for it, it roars like a dinosaur. Because of course it does. After being attacked, Michael realizes his mother's ridiculous claim is totally true. But he decides to keep it secret because Jake wants to study it. That's right, he's literally cheating on his mother with the shark. And you can actually see him struggling with that infidelity throughout the movie. The ending is one of a fucking kind. First, Jake gets chomped up by the shark, and last you see him, he's bleeding out like a stuck pig. But we'll get back to him later. Mama Brody thinks about her husband killing the first shark from the original movie in flashback form during her attack on the psychic dino shark that's more wrecked than John Holmes. There's only one problem with that. She wasn't there. So how the fuck could she remember it? She decides to play chicken with the killer shark and stabs it with her sailboat, and the shark explodes. Because that makes total sense, right? Remember how I said Jake was bleeding out? He totally survives this. It's kind of the icing on the cake for one last laugh. Everyone lives happily ever after, and Michael Caine gets the house he was looking to buy. This movie is guilty pleasure gold, people. In conclusion, they say one man's trash is another man's treasure. And I'm happy that we have 3 sequels to the masterpiece that is Jaws. For me, one is a slasher Jaws, then there's the 80s psychological thriller Jaws, and finally you get batshit crazy Jaws. With those things in mind, I say you give it another watch and come back and let me know what you think. From the BK from the city that never sleeps, this is Frank Stout checking out.
See my face in lights,
Peace,
my
baby.
name on marquees found down on Broadway. Even if it ain't what it seems, I got a pocket full of dreams, baby. I'm from New York, concrete jungle where dreams